Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. Whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on YouTube, welcome. Welcome to another great episode. And today's episode, well, who knows? Who knows where it can go? Actually, no, I do know where it's going to go. We are going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about a couple episodes ago. I talked about things I missed from Cedarville. Well, today I wanted to talk about the things that I wish I knew as a college freshman, or the things I want to tell myself if I was still a college freshman. And so these are like 5 things. I could have went longer, and I felt like if I went longer, this episode would last like 5 hours. And I felt that on your Thursday, you did not want to listen for 5 hours to me rambling on to things that might be a big deal, might not be. But I basically had about 15 ideas, and I kind of wrapped them into 5 ideas. Kind of 15 areas I wanted to go to, and I wrapped them into kind of 5. I combined a couple to kind of find the top 5 things that I wish I knew as a college freshman, because I think as a college freshman, you have a lot of unknowns. You have a lot of trying to figure out your life. And I wish I would have known some things going into my freshman year. Maybe I did, and I just ignored them, which is a very strong case because I tended to do that. And sometimes I still tend to do that. But anyways, here are the 5 things. Number 1, and these are not really in order from top to bottom. These are just top 5. So number 1 is don't get caught up in the freshman drama. And I actually kept notes today because I want to make sure I said it right. Don't get caught up in the freshman drama. And what I mean by this is your freshman year in college can be very interesting. There's a lot of friend groups that start happening from, especially at Cedarville, from your getting started group to your classes. You kind of form groups, friend groups. And specifically for myself, when I was at Cedarville, I didn't necessarily have a friend group. I had like the guys I lived with, and I had a couple and I worked with basketball, so I had those guys. But my problem is I would always somehow get into the drama. What I mean by that is I would always try to get into a friend group because I thought I'd be cool. I always thought I would be that cool guy. I basically would just try to do whatever I could to get into these popular groups, because as a freshman, you want to be, you want to be known. I mean, it's self-explanatory. I think all of us do at some point, and sometimes maybe we even still do now. But I know for myself, that was a big one, as I wanted to be known. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to, I just wanted to be a part of a group that would do a lot of fun things. Like, it's weird how I think, but I'm a very visual person. So I know I definitely visualized having this great group of friends that we'd be 35 years old, 40 years old, and we'd meet up and all of our friends would get together. And I want to be honest, in my 4 years, I don't have that. I never had that. I never had a group of guys, friends. And at times through my 4 years, it got really awkward because I would hang out with a buddy of mine, and he would hang out with his group of friends, and I didn't feel a part of it. That's another problem for another day. I feel like we should be more open to accepting people, but at the same time, I understood that was their friend group. And I think I was so trying to get involved with the drama that I never got the chance to be with the friend group because I was trying to force myself on others. Sorry, I was drinking. And so that was something that was big for me. And I got caught up in freshman drama. And I think there's a lot of other guys and girls that get caught up in freshman drama, whether that's relationships, whether that's who's got the better grades, who's got the better car, who's got the better athleticism. Believe it or not, it happens. I think sometimes, especially when you go to Cedarville, you think nothing happens like that. I'm sorry, it happens. That's just the way life is, people. And I didn't learn that quick enough. I wish I did. I wish I understood that concept. I wish I understood that it's okay just to be by yourself and gain friends as it happens. And you've heard my testimony. You heard how I scared away people. I pushed people away. And that's part of that drama idea that I wish I would have known going in as a freshman. All right. Now, that's number 2 that I'm about to talk about. Kind of goes in with number 1. It's kind of about the drama. But this is something I'm going to be honest. I thought about not just my freshman year, not just my senior year of high school, but my sophomore year or junior year. Not really my senior year as much, but mainly my freshman, sophomore year for sure. And that was this. Stop thinking about who is going to be your wife, or if you're a girl, a husband, and instead start to think about where is my walk with Christ and my identity, and where is my identity in, or who is my identity in. And yeah, this one is a big one for me, and I think for a lot of, especially guys, and maybe girls. Obviously, I'm not a girl, so I don't know, but maybe this is big for you guys as well. I know for me, this was huge to have. To literally have gone into college thinking I'm going to find my wife at Cedarville. I legit, and that's like this like cliche that like everyone at Cedarville gets married, and there's all these weird things that people say that like, you know, Cedarville's where you get married and you get your MRS degree, or you're, you know, for girls, or you're, you know, you, or as a guy, you're going to find your wife. And I fell in that trap. And I love Dr. White, but I remember that one of the first things he said, he's like, all right, guys, don't be afraid to ask a girl out. And that was like the biggest mistake for me to hear. Like, I wish I would never heard that, because it started me down a path that meant I didn't care who the girl was, where her walk was, where my walk was. I just wanted to have a girl to then be able to have someone I can call my wife one day, and I'll have kids and I'll have all these dreams. And I'm a visual person, like I said earlier. And this caused drama in my life. It caused frustration in my life. My freshman year, I scared away girls that were just trying to be my friend. I mean, I remember at least 2 that were just trying to be my friend, and they were so thrown away, you know, kind of thrown off when I come to them and say, hey, I've really liked you and I really want to date you. And they just kind of look at you like, what? I'm just trying to be a really good friend. And it's not their fault that any of it happened. It's always on me. It's, you know, it's that concept of, all right, as a guy, you got to realize like, okay, and you got to read girls better. And that sounds weird, but for me, I need to understand when a girl's just trying to be my friend, I needed to have that as a friend. And so my freshman year, especially, and even my sophomore year, even though I started dating someone my sophomore year, it wasn't for the idea of having a great friend. We never started as friends. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. My first girlfriend in college was, I remember we just talked for literally like 3 weeks tops. And we were like, oh, she came out, visited me. We started dating that weekend. Boom. And for some, maybe that works. But for me, I wasn't ready. To be honest, I had 3 girlfriends in college, obviously different levels, different lengths. You know, the first one was the longest, and then I had a couple others. But none of them I wasn't ready. The last one ended during my senior year. I still don't feel like I was ready during that time. And to be honest, I don't know if I'll ever, I think, completely be ready, but I think definitely now I understand that what it means to be a man, what it means to be a follower of Christ, and trying to follow this. And one of the ideas that I really think about this, and one thing that really has hit me home, especially during the last year or so, is the idea of running the race and not dropping back to, in this case, run beside someone that is farther behind you, or dating someone that is farther behind you spiritually, or jumping far ahead and trying to date someone that is super doing well, and you're going to bring them down. You know, and our president, Dr. White, talks about when you run the race and you are just trying to live out for Christ, that there's going to be someone that's going to join in with you on the same pattern, and you're going to be able to say, hey, we can do this together. And I didn't have that. I didn't, even in my relationships, I never had that. And especially as a freshman, I did not have that concept. I don't think I would have accepted that concept, even if I knew it was the right thing. And that's something that I wish as a freshman I knew before I got into the path that I was going. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you try to, correct it in your head. How many times you try to say, well, it makes sense in my head. I understand. No. Stop trying to make it about you and make it and realize that God has a plan, and he's in his time and in his will, he is going to have a plan for you for a spouse or no spouse. And it's okay either way. And I've had to accept that. And even, last episode I talked about this past weekend, and during this weekend, a couple prayed for me, and the husband prayed that God would prepare a future wife for me. And it's the first time, to be honest, I've ever heard one in a prayer where I've been there pray for me in that way. And it hit home for me because nowhere in that prayer said he knows that God is going to give me a wife. He said, prepare if needed. If you feel that Ben needs a wife to walk alongside him, then prepare his heart for that. Man, I wish I would have heard that prayer 4 years ago. But like I always say, God has a reason for why he does things the way he does. So that was number 2. Number 3 is also involving friends, but also involves school, and it's focusing on the equal balance between friends and school. Now, this is where this one gets a little complicated for myself. I'm going to be honest. My freshman year, I was a little bit of a mixture. I was like, for a little bit, I'd focus on school, and then for like a month, I'd just focus on friends. Now, I'm at the beliefs that you should spend not more time with friends and studying. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm saying is spend more quality time with your friends. The relationships that you build now will last a lifetime, rather than focusing on, now this is going to sound terrible, but focusing on the studying as much. And I'm not saying don't study for your exams. I'm not saying don't study for your tests. What I'm saying is this: when it comes to, oh, I've got to study, man, I can't come support you at your concert. No. This is where I'm talking about going and supporting them when they need to, when you know that you can, hey, I could sacrifice an hour of my time or 30 minutes of my time. And that's what I mean by balance. There are some out there are freshmen that I remember as a freshman that would focus all on school. It'd be 90% to 10%. I would then meet other people that was 10% school, 90% friends. And that for me, I was probably in that 60% friends, 40% studying. You have to find a balance, your balance, not whoever else it is. It's not who you're looking at somebody. It's not what anybody else is. It's who you need to be, and focusing with Christ as the center. So if you're hanging out with a bad group of friends, especially as a freshman, and your studying habits are going to be all over the place, drop those friends. I'm sorry. If God wants you to be friends with them, some down the line, they'll be your friends. But the cool thing about college, and I realized, was the more you focus on your grades and you try to focus on that early on in your career, the more credits you build up, the harder it is to drop that grade really bad or drop that GPA really bad. Because I remember like my junior year when I went through a lot of personal things, I had some bad grades, but I still had a decent GPA. And so I learned that I was like, I can balance a good time with friends, balance a good relationship with friends, and a good relationship in a necessary, I guess, if Ben could talk, it'd be great today. No, if you can have a great relationship with friends and then also have a great relationship with your books, sounds weird, I know, but it's the idea of studying for a good time, being with friends, having that balance is what I wish I would have heard as a freshman, and I didn't hear as a freshman in college. And if I did, it would have gone a lot smoother, especially freshman year, when it comes to the studying and all the friends and all of that. All right, that was number 3. And number 4. Number 4 is this: get involved. Don't think you are too busy or too important to get involved. Now, this one for me is different in a way. I still believe this, but I was a part of the Cedarville men's basketball team. And so for me, it's a little different. It's actually, I thought I was too busy. Not necessarily I was too important or didn't want to. I felt that basketball was the way that God wanted me to go, and I don't care about any of the other stuff. But as you guys know, and you know my story, my senior year when I was working with campus experience and when I was working with SCAB, it was the best time I had in my whole career at Cedarville. And you all know how much I wish I would have done some of that stuff early on in my career. And yeah, so I've always challenged freshmen. I challenged my brother this too, like getting involved early on in your Cedarville career. So that way, when you're a junior and a senior and you're finally getting involved, you don't have that regret that I do of like, oh, I wish I would have gotten involved. Because I thought the one thing I was involved with was the most important thing. And it actually I ended up losing the passion a little bit for it, and which caused me to then get out of basketball. And at times I wish I would have been more involved with campus and with, different things. Like I've thought about what it would have been like to be an RA, those kind of things that I never got the chance to do because I made the choice. It wasn't my friends making the choice. It was Ben Bowden making the choice to do what I did. And so I think you're never too important either, because I've seen people that way too, where they think, well, I'm going to run for president. I don't need to be involved in anything else. Or I'm going to run for class office of some sort, or, I work, I'm going to work somewhere. I'm too important for this, or I'm too busy. No, you could still be a part of an org. You could still do that kind of stuff. Yeah, you might be able to have to focus on one thing more than the other, but you could still be involved. And I guess I didn't add this one in there, but this is kind of like a 4.5 with my 5 points. Is 4.5 would be kind of like learning how to say no. If anybody you know me, this is something I talk about a lot, is I wish I would have learned how to say no earlier on. I really struggled with saying no early on, especially when it came to talking. Like when I would talk with people and they'd be like, hey, let's go hang out, or let's go get involved with this. And I would just keep saying yes, to a point when I had no time to do any of my schoolwork, any of my stuff like that. And so to this day, I wish I would have said no to more things and yes to the certain things I know I needed to do. And so that leads me to number 5. And I think this is the most important. I think this is the most important one in all the choices that I can make, that I wish I would have known and wish I would have done, is having a consistent Bible time or Bible study and a D group. And if any of you didn't go to Cedarville or you don't know, D groups are what we did. You would do throughout the whole year. You would join a D group. I joined one my sophomore, my junior year, and then my senior year I was kind of in and out of one, and then was kind of like silly by me. I should have been more involved my senior year with that. But D group, I wish I would have started my freshman year. I think if I started my freshman year, I think some of the issues that I had, they might have not gone away, but I think they would have had a better chance to go away because I would have been more involved with guys that would pour into me as a group of guys that just would have done more, I think, in that sense. I'm going to be honest. This is the biggest one for me because consistent Bible study for me didn't happen until almost my senior year. And for me, that's something I really, really, really wish I would have, because it's been very hard since leaving college to be consistent, to have a consistent time to go to the God's Word. And that's on me. It's on no one else. I think sometimes when you are like, man, I'm not at home anymore, mom and dad can't tell me what to do, and you kind of get in that mindset of, oh, but I'll be, I have a consistent Bible study. I'll have a consistent, I'll do it. Trust me, it usually lasts a week. And so I always try to help freshmen when I'm there, or if I know of a kid that's graduating high school and he's going to college, I'm like, hey, find consistent time. When you could find consistent time, it makes, I think, just everything more, I don't know, I just enjoy it more. I really do. I think when I started having consistent Bible study, it like allowed me to enjoy life a little bit more, allowed me to understand my weaknesses, my strengths, and stuff like that. So I think finding that Bible time it almost leads in every single one of these other points I talked about, getting involved. If you have a consistent Bible study time, I think it prepares you for getting involved and challenges you to get involved more. I think focusing on equal balance between friends and school, consistent Bible study plays right into that, because the more you're in God's Word, the friends you need to be around, the time, the effort you need to put towards your school. I think if you're focusing on Christ and consistent Bible study, the whole idea of finding a future wife, you don't have to worry about that because God is your number one. And then finally, getting caught up in freshman drama, if you're focused on Christ and you're focused on your Bible study, there's less time where you're going to be caught up in that drama. So really, I think if I encapsulate all this into one big thing, consistent Bible study is honestly, it's like the big umbrella that's important, and everything else kind of falls underneath it. That, yeah, it's important to do, but if you focus on the big umbrella, the rest of it becomes easier to do. And so I guess I wanted to, after sharing these ideas, these things I wish I would have told myself, I don't know how many, college freshmen there are, college sophomores that are listening, but I challenge you to be ready, to be challenged, to be willing to accept what God is going to do, whether that's someone that comes in your life and tells you this is what you should be doing, or someone comes in your life and says, well, I don't know if you're walking the right walk. And for men out there, young men, stop worrying about the next Mrs. whoever, whatever your last name is. Focus on, where is my life with Christ? Because if I've realized through my interesting relationships at times and choices, is that when you focus on Christ, everything else becomes a lot smoother because you're not worried about what the world thinks of you. Being single is a gift. Being single teaches you a lot about yourself. And don't get me wrong, I still struggle with it to this day. To this day, I still struggle with it. Feeling that, oh man, I'm alone. But I'm not. God's with me. I have great friends. I have a great church. I have a great family. Stop thinking about it very narrowly. Think about it a little openly and say, God, I understand what you're trying to do. And so I think one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, and this has been on one of my lists to talk about for probably a couple weeks now. The reason is because I feel that especially as a Christian body, I feel that we need to be challenged every stage of life. For me, early on in my college career, I don't feel like I was challenged by others. And part of that's on me. Part of that is because I didn't make the choice to be challenged. I made the choice to make it easier for Ben rather than making it what God wanted me to hear. And when it comes to all these 5 things I wish I knew, or 5 tips, or whatever we're going to call them, I think before we even look at all of those, I think whatever stage of life we're in, whether we've graduated high school and we're going to college, whether we've graduated college, we're going into the workforce, whether we're in the workforce, whether we're almost to retirement, we need to sit back and look and say, what is the most important thing in my life? If it's not Christ, then we need to look at our life completely differently. We need to stop worrying about the mistakes that we can make and the reason why I say mistakes is because I think sometimes when we are focused on Christ, we're scared that we might make mistakes, but that's okay. Because if we're making the right choice and we're trying to make the right choices and focusing on Christ, then at the end of the day, when we look at whatever we're doing, there's a better purpose. So when we do mess up, we understand that, we're going to mess up because we are an imperfect person. We are imperfect. We are a sinful human being, that at the end of the day, we can make those choices better because we're focusing on Christ. So my challenge for you is, wherever you're at, whether you are going into college, whether you've graduated college, whether you're in the workforce, whether you're retiring from the workforce, what are you doing? Are you being complacent? Are you willing to just be a part of the drama, part of the culture? Or are you willing to say, God, I'm willing to understand what you're trying to do in my life, and I'm willing to walk towards you, and whatever happens, happens because I know what I'm doing is for you and for your glory. When I was a freshman, I didn't have that. When I was a freshman, I didn't want that. When I was a freshman, I could care less about that. Because all I knew was that I was in a great place, that I was going to have fun, I was going to meet amazing people, and it was going to be all about Ben. But as almost 24 now, leaving college, moving back home, it teaches you a lot of things as well. When you focus on drama, when you focus on friends, When you come home, the only friends that are really around you are the ones that were going to stick beside you. And that's why I always challenge people that when you have a bunch of friends, how many of them are actual meaningful friends? You've heard on here many times, I only had three or four really close friends at Cedarville. And all of them continue to contact me today. I would have 4 or 5 friends than to have 30, 300, 30,000 friends. All these friends I barely know. Because you know what those friends do? They're the ones that will build me up and to say, hey, you're walking a race that is not the race we should be walking. You need to be walking a race that is going to bring you closer to Christ. And at the end of the day, bring you so close to Christ that you could say, I am running the race I need to run. Now you might be asking, Ben, do you have all this figured out yet? And no, I don't. I'm no expert. I don't have most of these things I'm still working on. Most of these things I'm still trying to avoid doing. But by me sharing with you, I'm also challenging myself. Because every time I'm on this podcast and every time I turn this mic on and I turn my computer on and I start recording, when I record, it's not to make me look like the best person ever. It's to me also sometimes to break myself down and say, Ben, you are not who you think or you want to be. Just like last episode, I had to humble myself. I had to understand that God is more important than anything I can do or anything that I want. So again, we need to look at our lives a little differently. We need to look at our lives in the sense of, I want to live for Christ, and if what I'm doing is not living for Christ, then I need to stop what I'm doing and try something new. I need to stop what I'm doing and try to look at, how am I going to live like Christ? If you're in a bad relationship and you know it's not leading towards Christ, get out of it. If you're in the bad friend group, get out of it. If you have bad habits, get out of them. If you have those things that you know you should not be doing, get out of them. Now, I'm speaking to myself too. I need to make sure I'm reminding myself every single day of this, every single moment of every single day. So yes, these were top 5 things I wish I knew as a college freshman, but in reality, I could relabel this for anybody. For myself, I could say the top 5 things I wish I knew now. I wish I knew 4 minutes ago. I wish I knew 4 years ago. So think about your top 5 things. What are the top 5 things you wish you would have known at a certain point in life? So I hope that this was encouragement to you. I hope this was an encouraging time for you to listen and to maybe be challenged. I know I was challenged as preparing this, and I hope that encourages you in some sense. And if it did, awesome. Hit that thumbs up on my YouTube video if you're watching, or a 5-star if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because it'd be really encouraging to see how this podcast affects you and hopefully encourages you to make changes, just like I have to make changes every single day. So once again, thank you for all the support. Once again, thank you for just hanging in there with me, wherever you're doing, driving, sitting at home, relaxing, however it may be. Thank you so much for tuning in. And well, it's been real on Real Talk with Ben. We'll talk next time. See ya.